Welcome to the Philantrepreneur Show, hosted by Dr. Victoria Boyd, designed to offer tips, strategies, and insight to empower nonprofits and entrepreneurs with sustainable win-win solutions. The Philantrepreneur Show is sponsored by the Philantrepreneur Foundation, building capacity through education and professional services.
Well, welcome. This is Dr. Victoria Boyd, President and founder of the Philantrepreneur Foundation and editor of the Philantrepreneur Journal. And as usual, I am so thrilled to bring tips, strategies, and insight for the business and nonprofit sector. Today our show, will be a little bit different today. We have guests, but as an organization, we constantly communicate and support nonprofits. And what that means is we get a lot of questions. We answer them as they come in, but looking at the context and focus of some of the questions, we sort of felt it would be really valuable to discuss these questions and provide some basic information and really pinpoint and clear up some misconceptions or just provide some insight. So I'm really happy today to bring on a couple of my board members, and they come from different sectors, and so it would be good to hear their perspective of some of the questions because it will give a wider range or depth of how we're answering these and the questions and giving you some more insight. So today we have Rob Cole and Sharon Evans. Both, have extensive experience in the sector, so I think it's going to be quite interesting today. So I want to welcome to the show Rob and Sharon. And before we get started, for our listeners, please share some of your background and experience. So as we say, ladies first. So welcome, Sharon.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm sort of losing my voice. I was really talking a lot last night at our expo. We had a lot of people come by our booth last night, and it was actually quite exciting. So I'm recovering from working basically from, 8 to almost 10 o'clock yesterday, a 14-hour day. So.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy.
Well, just to share a little bit with the listeners about my background, I am a mental health professional, and I am the owner of Evans Helping Hands of America. We are a company that assists business startup and nonprofits by assisting them with ways to leverage their program income, connect them to resources in the community, as well as, help them get started with their LLC. My background is extensively within human resources and human services sector. So that is what we specialize in. I am the human service expert is our tagline, and I'm excited if I'm able to offer some feedback to someone.
Absolutely. Okay, welcome, Rob. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, I'm a website developer and social media marketing specialist. I've been building internet sites since 1993, and through the years I have been working with for-profit organizations, non-profit organizations, artists, and over the years as technology has improved and increased, I've kept up with the technology. My background is in project management. So not only do I help present the information for the organizations, but I also help to make sure that they're structured, their processes are efficient so that they can do the best with the money that they have.
Absolutely. And both of those are great resources, and I hope our listeners will really take advantage. And maybe a few of them might call in, hopefully. But we have a lot of questions that we're going to be answering for them anyway. So let's get right into these questions. And I think they range from startup areas to some really specific management concepts. One that I consistently get in the startup phase is what are some of the must-have items needed to start a nonprofit? Let's just do a round robin. So, Sharon, what do you think are some of the must-have items if they're thinking about starting a nonprofit?
Well, I think most importantly, you want to make sure that you have a strong board that you've identified that could help. community sponsorship that could support in an area of focus that you would like to start out in, as a primary focus for your nonprofit. To me, I think that's probably your major thing to start up, and especially you want to make sure that you have some way of funding and donation and marketing in place.
Okay, Rob, what do you think about that?
That's all great items to have for a nonprofit, and I'd also like to add you need a vision and passion for the work that you provide to the community. It's tough
Absolutely.
starting out any business like this, especially a nonprofit, and the passion is going to help drive you through the first few steps. No doubt you're going to stumble with any new venture, but with the passion and the drive, it'll help push you forward and give you the determination to persevere.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up that passion point. And as I work with a lot of individuals, because that's really one of the key focus areas as they come in, one of the first things I make them realize, do you have the startup funds? I know Sharon mentioned methods of gaining, donations, but many times it's an individual, and they don't really realize that even though it's a nonprofit, that term really needs to be thrown out the window. But you need startup capital. You need seed funding, and whether or not you supply it yourself or have what I call even those angel investors or those first donors that have committed to you, those need to be in place, because technically it really takes about $5,000 to launch a nonprofit if you're going to do it correctly. Sharon, you mentioned identifying board members. As just baselines, you must have at least 3 people to say that they're your initial board. It's a good starting point. Is it where you need to stay and focus, or no? Because as you grow, you need to build your capacity by increasing your board, increasing the influence that your board can have. So some of the basic items you must have, yes, identify 3 strong board members, have your passion really clarified, and some of the help that we can do is many times they come with the passion, but they really haven't positioned it into what is called a purpose statement that meets the compliance issue that IRS wants. And so it has to be positioned so you are truly being a nonprofit. And when you mention that passion, because there are going to be some rough spots. It's hard to start a nonprofit. And unfortunately, I have come across several individuals that were they say, well, I want to create a job for myself because I see this area is really cleaning up in terms of collecting donations and things, and so I want to do it in that area. And I just sort of went, in my mind, I said, it'll never work because the passion's not there. You don't really care about it. You're looking for a job, and that's not what you need, and it's not one of those must-have items. So just sort of summarizing, I think, Sharon said you have to have a strong board, which is absolutely right. You have to have a passion. You're going to need a website. Because that is a part of your marketing, and that it was mentioned that you need marketing. So besides having the initial state incorporation papers and then the IRS determination letter that says you are so then you put your systems in place of having the website to make and be a real entity, because that is the first point of reference. And I'm glad Rob is on the show, because those websites are so important, because nowadays in this digital age, and we talked a lot about it yesterday, that is where people look for you. They're not going to look on Facebook. They're not going to look wherever else, but they're going to do a Google search or Yahoo or whatever search engine, and they're going to look for your website. And if you don't have not only a domain name that is easy to find you need to be found and have information on your website that really speaks to who you are. So those are some great starting points, and I'm sure that has some people thinking right now. But one of the other questions is, and it comes up quite often, and I just mentioned about uh, creating a job for themselves. Somebody, I guess I get this question: can I get paid if I'm on the board of a nonprofit? Any either one of you want to sound in on that?
Actually, it is my understanding that you cannot be paid as a board member. That as a board member, that is a volunteer situation. But I guess I'm not really sure in terms of you may still contract with that nonprofit.
Okay, yeah. As a board member, no, it is legally illegal for you to get paid as a member of the board, but you can get paid as a staff member. If you're providing services to that organization, it's considered outside services. Now, if your company has services or a product that the organization needs, for compliance and conflict of interest issues, you need to go through what is called an RFP, or where you have 3 bids and the board actually votes. Now, in that vote, that board member would abstain from voting. You know, you shouldn't be able to vote for your own company. But there are processes. No, you can't get paid as a board member, but you can provide services, and a board member can be, for example, a project manager in the organization. So then you're being paid for a job you're doing within the organization. So it's no question you can't get paid as a board member, but yes, you can earn income providing services to that organization. Rob, you want to add anything else to that?
No, I think that covers it.
Well, fantastic. Okay, another question that I see, and one of you brought up. You know, I'm just starting out in my charity with not a lot of money. That's generally it's not the case that most charities launch with a big pool of funds. But how can I generate enough donations when I can't afford advertising? And that's actually a great question, and it comes back to having a marketing plan in place. I'm going to start with Rob on this one because that's really your area of expertise.
Sure. Yeah, it's a chicken and the egg kind of situation where you need marketing funds to raise awareness and bring in donors, but you can't start that marketing without some seed money, as you had said. So the thing is to start out small, work with your warm market. These are the friends and family that you've grown up with, that you know. It's easy to reach out to them and get some initial funds first. And with those funds, then you can start working on building up a larger audience. There are lots of free tools out there on the internet that can help with marketing. There's Benchmark Email. There's Constant Contact. There are lots of organizations out there that can help with sending out email messages to a set number of people. After a while, with Constant Contact Benchmark, email will have a paid fee, but to get going, these are great tools to send your message out. Facebook as well,
absolutely,
and other social media tools are free. Cost-wise, it does take some time to develop a following on social media. So again, it's a slow process of building up an audience and then proving to your audience that you're doing the work that you say that you're doing. Share your successes, and people will naturally are attracted to those successes and want to contribute and help to your organization.
Absolutely. Sharon, you want to add to that?
I think he pretty much covered it.
Well,
because I know with the social media, in terms of my company, I did take the avenue of utilizing Facebook first, and I do agree because I did have the limited startup funds, and so I did have to build that following, and that took a time, but I had to immediately put a website in place, and it can become challenging because you have to then redirect that social media following to your website. So I do agree that, that is a very vital part.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's a key. Yeah, that's a key point. You don't want to use social media as your main platform. It is a means to direct them to your website. Your website should be your brochure. That should be where everything, even your email blast, your blogs and everything, should send people back to your website, because that's where your true story can be told. And that's also where you have the space and capabilities of getting all of the information you want to disseminate to your followers or to attract followers. Your website should be the key focus. And yes, there are a lot of great social media platforms out there that are free. And Rob mentioned Constant Contact, but there's also, and they have a paid platform, but there's MailChimp, and that's totally free, that you can really build your database. It connects to websites, and you can do things that drive them to that. Now, we're talking about advertising and marketing. It's essential that when you start putting together your message, because that will be your first level of marketing, it's how you tell your story, that story is not only compelling, but you want to ask some questions that will move people to action, that they will then say, oh, I need to find out about that, or how can I support that? And so that is also, especially with no budget, it's, are you putting out their messages that you're asking questions for people to respond, to become emotionally connected with what you're doing? So, yes, advertising and the paid marketing platforms will become a part of the process eventually, but you can generate following, which then can generate donations, because if you don't have a following and people listening to you, you'll never get the donations through a lot of these free platforms. But one big mistake is I see them only relying on Facebook, which is a mistake from point one. So, okay, I mean, that's great in answering that question. So let me see what the next question. As a startup, nonprofits should they focus on sponsorship opportunities or donations? I think I want to start with that one. I want to address that. As a startup, you don't have the background to ask for sponsorships unless you have existing relationships with some key people in the community that, because of who you are, will just automatically support whatever it is you're doing. With sponsorships, many times the organization, especially startups, you don't have the capacity yet to offer them what they need. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here. Our next training on First Tuesday, we're doing corporate sponsorships and what all of the platforms and things that you need to have in place so that you are offering them a benefit, because sponsorships are not donations. They are a marketing tool, and unless you have the capacity to provide marketing, you're really not ready initially to do sponsorships unless you have created a program that you're ready to launch. And at that point, then it really depends on, do you have the relationships out there that they'll just support you without any prior success stories associated with that event. And so I would say focus on donations, telling people your story, and go with what I call the grassroots, the small $25, $30, $50 donation platform, and let that once again slowly build your revenue or your pool of funds, available funds, that you can then do bigger things and support your programs. Just like in any business, starting out, a majority of your money should be in marketing, but you still have to do your programs. So anybody else want to add in on the difference between or focusing on sponsorship or donations?
I think I think the key is to diversify the income streams coming in. So
Absolutely.
not only do you have the individual donors, but also working with other businesses. Maybe your local print shop will give you a discount on printing, and getting other people involved so it isn't quite so expensive starting out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I totally believe in diversification of all different funding sources, which include those in-kind and what I call barter relationships. And that's goes, it more to how are you developing your development plan. Absolutely. Those are totally things. If people need help with creating those development plans, they need to reach out to the Philantrepreneur Foundation, because we can definitely help them do that, or attend some of our training where we'll be talking about that. God, we're just coming up with a lot of tips here. So, okay, let's go on to another question. I know I'm flying through these questions, but I think we're going to be coming up with a lot of good stuff. Okay, I think we already did the process. Let me. Is it better to do a pilot project before starting a nonprofit to give data and feedback prior to starting, and is a LLC needed during the pilot phase? I could answer that, or does anyone else want to jump in there?
I would like for you to answer.
Okay. For me, I don't believe in doing those pilot projects. Usually your passion will let you know where the need is, and you know what type of programming needs to be established. There's absolutely no need to start an LLC before you create your nonprofit, because for me, in my opinion, that sort of muddles the water, or it becomes a gray area. So are you a for-profit or are you a nonprofit? You need to create your brand and who you are and what you're doing from day one, and let all the projects and efforts that you're putting into your passion become a part of that nonprofit. So I would say launch your nonprofit and launch your project. And then as you're going along, start collecting that data. You're not going to be a success on day one. Well, some people might. But anyway, but your project is a part of your nonprofit. And so it should be under that umbrella. It should be branded from day one as a program and project of that nonprofit. And I think it's just sort of wasting time to go through the LLC phase before you go ahead and just claim it. Stand firm and claim that this is who you are, you're a nonprofit, and this is what you're doing. It sort of slows the process down by going through the LLC. And what purpose does it serve to be an LLC before that? Rob, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think you're right. When you're just starting out, you want to be as laser focused on your objective, and anything else that you're doing that doesn't get you towards that objective is just going to distract you. I know a friend of mine wanted to get into a band, but he didn't have the band wasn't making enough money, so he was deciding to do the waiter business while he was working the band, and his father said, no, just go all out into the band, because that is going to give you the focus that you need to make sure that the band is successful. If you distract yourself with having a sideline waitering job, then you aren't going to put your full attention into your music. So carrying this over to nonprofits, you need to go all in on your passion, on your goal, and make sure you do that one thing right.
Absolutely. I totally, that laser focus is so important. And sometimes, and I have to admit, I'm guilty of this many times, you get so scattered and trying to follow so many different paths because, I can help so many people in every area. But having that laser focus and making that area, that one focus, become the key thing that you're working on at that point will make you see, first of all, benchmarks of success, and those things will motivate you to move forward. But you're formulating the whole systems for your organization. Over the last couple of months, I've been, restructuring and looking at our internal organization and systems. And I was working with a mentor, and one of his tasks or assignments was to go back and find 3 specific goals that your organization is focused on. And I struggled for a couple of days trying to find 3 because I only had 2. And I was like, I can't find this third one that you want me to come up with. And he was like, oh, okay, that's even better. I was like, so why'd you tell me to do 3? But for the philanthropreneur, I set out our focus is education and professional services. And if it doesn't fall under those 2 umbrellas, then it's not a good fit for our organization. And having 1 or 2 is okay, but it keeps you on target. And that's also going back to the nonprofit. You have a mission. And your mission statement and what it is very defined as to what you do, who you serve, and how you serve them. It is the statement of what you do. And if you're doing something or trying to bring something into the mix that is not in alignment or directly supports your mission statement, then you really need to think hard, is it really what your organization needs to be doing? And I love the term laser focus. Get that laser focus, and make sure that what you're doing is for the nonprofit, is for the organization, is for the passion that you have, and don't get sidetracked with trying to create things that aren't a part of it. So to answer that question, which was, is it better to do a pilot project before starting? The answer, simple, is no. Just start the nonprofit and let that project be the program of the nonprofit. So I hope that helped really answer and help some people or some of our listeners right there. Okay, I'm going to take a couple commercial breaks right now because, as always, we need to get these in. But we'll pick up with the questions in just a moment. Let me find. Okay, going to take a couple breaks here.
The Philanthropreneur Foundation. Build your capacity with our educational programs and professional services. Learn how to be a philanthropreneur. Maximize your social impact and maximize your revenue. Visit thephilanthropreneur.com or philanthropreneurfoundation.org to find services, resources, and training to launch, enhance, or improve your business or nonprofit strategy. While there, sign up to receive the Philanthropreneur Journal digital publication.
Now,
today's Philanthropreneur Show tip.
Okay, if you notice, many of the questions we're dealing with today are fundraising issues. So make sure you take advantage of all of our upcoming learning opportunities, especially on February 23rd and 25th, where we're going to be presenting Ellen Bristol of the Bristol Strategies Group. She's all the way from Miami, but she's going to do a webinar on the 23rd called Fundraising the Smart Way: The Evidence of a Need for Change. She actually wrote a book called Fundraising the Smart Ways, and she's done a lot of research and collected data from over 1,000 different participants on some needs that they have and how they've been handling fundraising. And so it's sort of revolutionary. She's going to be giving some real tips on data measurement on that impacts your fundraising success. And then on the 25th is Selling the Smart Way. It's the science that makes the art of selling possible. And if you think about it, fundraising is selling. And so the topics will be very similar and aligned, but you'll hear some real key tips that will take you into crossing and using both of those strategies together. To register for either webinar, you can find them really easily on the Philanthropreneur website calendar, and you can click on you just click on the calendar and you'll see all of the shows and offerings there. With the 25 $29 registration, you can have access to both of those registrations. But I want to emphasize that $29 registration is a donation to the Philantrepreneur Foundation. So we're asking you to help support us. And here's another tip. If you need office services or a space to call your home, you might want to think about getting that professional address. Stay tuned to a lot of the things we're doing because we're going to be launching a program that will offer office space. So you need to check out, become a member of Philantrepreneur because a lot of benefits and all of the training will be free. So just go to our website and look at all of the offerings we have.
The Philantrepreneur Journal, a quarterly digital publication reaching over 600,000 entrepreneurs and nonprofits. Get targeted exposure to reach your ideal customer with our unique Ads for a Cause, where 50% of the fee goes to support our nonprofit training and services programs. Together, we can make a difference, create impact, and build capacity. Visit thephilantrepreneur.com, Marketing Ads tab for all the details. Mention this show and get a 10% discount.
Okay, welcome back with all of my technical difficulties. This stupid thing is still on my screen that I can't get rid of, and it's blocking my buttons. I'm sorry. I'm venting right now. But welcome back. We're joined here in a conversation with Rob Cole and Sharon Evans, and they've been adding a lot of insight and tips and strategies as we work through these issues of nonprofit. So let's get back to that not the last question, but our next question, and it's about crowdfunding. Once again, we're talking about getting revenue streams. Are crowdfunding opportunities appropriate in the pilot phase, and can you take donations? That's an excellent question. Any one of you want to tap into that?
Sure. Crowdfunding is a very tricky topic. There's so many crowdfunding platforms out there that it can just be dizzying trying to find what is right for you, for your purposes. Some of them charge an exorbitant fee for collecting the funds on your behalf. Some of them not so much. Some of them you just pay into. So it might be good to do some research on some crowdfunding platforms and just map out the cost and also the services that they provide when they pay out, if they pay out, before you meet your goal. There are we could probably do a whole show on crowdfunding.
Yes, absolutely. Crowdfunding is one of the hot platforms that's out there, and unfortunately, it became so hot not only with startups, and that's originally where it started, where they were trying to find a new way to get that seed money or capital funding. But now it's gone into what I call mainstream, just everyday individuals that, I've seen them, I need to take a trip, or, my car broke down. And so it's sort of become oversaturated. So like you said, Rob, it's important to make sure that the platform that you select, first of all, is geared toward the nonprofit sector. And there's a few of them out there that I really like because not only have they brought their fees way down and made them reasonable, excuse me, they don't have what is called these requirements that if you don't raise your funds, you don't get funded, or, like you said, the exorbitant charge for credit card or the processing of your fees. One good one, and is what the Philantrepreneur uses, is Generosity.com, or it's a branch or subdivision of Indiegogo. I found it because, as Rob said, we could do a whole class, which we did back in October, on crowdfunding, but its fees are quite low. So if you want to check out a crowdfunding presentation, here I go, shameless plug, generosity.com/philantrepreneur, you'll see how to set it up and what it should look like. Take a look at that one. Then there's, like you said, where you pay into the system. That one of those types or examples is WeShare crowdfunding. Once again, if you want more information on how that works, and that's more of a community, it's a shared community. I love the platform, but you have to be committed to really going out and bringing others into your community. It can be really beneficial if that work is done. But once again, unless you have what I call dedicated fundraising staff who is just focused on the fundraising portion of it, it can become sort of cumbersome. But it does present long-term potential, because you're not just based on one project or one item that you're trying to raise. It's a long-term plan where you're in it for to build the community, and it can be quite beneficial. In crowdfunding, they're not considered donations so much unless you are a 501c3. You actually can do a crowdfunding campaign before you receive your designation and just say, support us as we try to raise the seed money to build and open our nonprofit. The people that support you, they won't get that tax-deductible donation, but that's what crowdfunding is. It's just reaching out into the global universe and asking people to support your idea, your vision, your passion. Now, if you are already a nonprofit, you can build into every donation where in their response or thank you that they get a receipt for their donation. And so there's different methods. It can be a donation, but it also can be the support funds to really launch your organization. So really explore it. Crowdfunding is here to stay. The platforms have become very sophisticated, and it's a very viable and valuable platform that you should be considering as at least one of your strategies, because it can be set up and started in a heartbeat, like almost immediately. So I talked too much on that one. But okay.
Great info.
It does take a lot of work to keep it going.
Yes.
If you're just reaching out to your warm market, if you're reaching out to social media or advertising it through the newsletter, you might not get the groundswell of support that you're led to believe when you start the crowdfunding campaign. What you need to do is reach out to traditional media as well and get the support of the community to help. And this is one tactic that can help improve the success of the campaign.
Absolutely, yeah. It's about marketing, and I guess we're going to keep circling around and coming back to, if you don't have a marketing plan or at least some solid strategies in place, anything you do, your programs aren't going to be successful. Your fundraising is not going to be successful. So, marketing is a key element across the board for what you're doing. So speaking of marketing, which I feel is a part of your operations, let's go into some questions that deal a little bit more with management and operations. So we're talking about donations, so it's a good segue right into the next question, which would be, there's a lot of platforms out there, but what tools are available to track donors and donations? Are there some free ones, and what is the general cost? I think, Rob, why don't you jump on that one?
There are some donation tracking tools out there. I know yesterday you were talking about Boomerang, and they're coming out with a light version. The light version has not quite so many tools, but it's a free version to track the donors, the donations, and this is essential to having a successful donation and donor base, is to keep track of the donors, find out how often they donate, how much they donate, what times of the year they donate, so you can anticipate their donation habits and invite them to give and sometimes to elevate their level of support. If a donor hasn't donated in a period of time, you can reach out to them with developments of your program and encourage them to participate in your organization again.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Once again, another segue here, but that whole Boomerang Lite was just launched within the last 30 days, and I actually got an email from Stephen Shattuck, who is the vice president of Boomerang, the big organization, and it's exciting on many levels. As you probably saw my excitement yesterday. But Boomerang Lite is a free platform for donor tracking for nonprofits. You have to prove that you're a nonprofit and show your determination letter. But it gives you some what I call baseline tools, at least to get started. In most small organizations, that's what you need to do. You need to not think about jumping into those very complicated systems, but start with baseline tools so you get and learn the system of how and why you need to do this in tracking your donors. But also, plug for our Impact Learning Conference in October. Stephen has agreed to come in as one of our keynote speakers, and he will be joining us here in Las Vegas in October and presenting the art and science of digital donors, which is really exciting. And then he's also going to do a demonstration on the Boomerang Lite program that will be so valuable because I really, some people are intimidated by technology, just have to admit it. But if you walk through simply, how to use it, I think people will leave there with a valuable tool. So we're already marketing for our fall conference because we're going to have Stephen Shattuck, Vice President of Boomerang, which is based in Minnesota. So exciting to bring these national experts into the Las Vegas Valley to share with our nonprofit sector. So, okay, I'm always throwing my plugs in. Okay, this is an operational question. I have an employee that doesn't take the initiative that the job requires. I'm having trouble finding a replacement for her. Should I fire this employee and do the work myself until I find a new employee to take on the role, or put up with her poor performance until I can find a new employee? Okay, I'm not going to touch that one. Both of you guys, Sharon, since you're human resources, I'm giving that one to you.
Well, if you have set up a system that was effective in training that employee before putting him or her in that role, and you know that it is adequate, and if you've given an opportunity, for the staff to rectify that, then of course you don't want to just hold on to a staff that is not performing and causing you more stress. I think it would be less stressful to actually just let the staff go if they're not taking the initiative or not, and you know that you have done your job in training them. I think that's the safest way I could answer it.
So I'm going to go into job training and what I call building a culture of learning, which comes right back to our mission, because I'm always talking about organizations need to build into their systems and operations opportunities for internal training and external training. My mind just jumped to something else, but Rob, you deal with Six Sigma. Does training and continuous improvement play a role, or is that a vital component or one of its tenets?
Well, yes, we're all learning, and the whole thing with Six Sigma is a continual process improvement, a continual learning system. So you take a look at the processes that are going on in your organization. You can find out what's working, what's not working, and then measure what is not working so that you can identify alternatives, implement those alternatives, and test to make sure that you get an improvement over your expectations from what you were currently doing to start the cycle again.
Right. I mean, because initiative, I'm looking at the word initiative. A lot of times that is based on, are they motivated? Has the organization motivated that individual to take initiative, but also are they providing them the tools they need to do their job? I've worked in several organizations where, okay, you're hired with this title of what you're supposed to be doing, and you know what that job, but they don't have a clue, and they haven't given you any tools to do your job, and so you sort of get frustrated and just sit back down and say, well, I can't do anything if I'm not given the tools I need. So I think just like you started out, Sharon, saying, have you trained them? You might want to look internally first. Have you provided them as an organization the tools and the skills and knowledge they need as that, employee? Yes, you probably hired them and they presented their resume saying they had a certain level of expertise to fill that job, but every job is a works in progress. Every organization does things a little bit differently, and so they also have an orientation to how your internal systems work, and just even having handbooks and a new employee orientation and where to go for help if they're stuck. Plus also just building in, like Rob said, continuous improvement means, are you seeking opportunities to provide them the training that they need, which is the employer's responsibility. So I think this sort of brings
it is also,
forth.
I would like to just jump in.
Sure.
When I worked in management, I found that it was also very helpful to make sure that you validate them and also recognize them for when they are doing well, because a lot of people responded so much better simply by me saying thank you or giving them a certificate. Another empowerment tool that I used at one time was I would allow the staff to write their job description, because what I knew that job description would give me was what they felt they had the strengths in, and I would sort of make sure I would utilize their identified strengths and assess what I saw as they worked in what they felt they were strong in. That worked out very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to Rob's thing, that laser focus again. What is it that you really expect from that employee? It's not just about what you do as an organization, but that laser focus can be used internally also. You have all these different job titles, but what does that really mean? They come in with one assumption and you might have another. And that strategy of letting them write out what they have envisioned their job responsibilities, tapping into their own strengths is a great strategy. Now, if it doesn't align, then you need to have a discussion. Okay, we also need this done. Can you handle that? And ask the question, but don't set them up for failure. So I'm thinking this question is really twofold. Is the organization doing for them what they need to do? And in turn, is the employee then providing the services or expertise that the organization needs? So it's not a either or, it's a if and.
Right.
Rob, do you want to add?
I do agree.
May I ask?
Want to add it?
I was wondering about the interview process, and if initiative is a key component of the job, how can you interview for initiative? Initiative can't be trained. How do you find out whether somebody has the initiative you need for that job during the interview?
Well, I go back to the passion point. There often in a job not that I've had a lot of job interviews, but the question will be asked: what really gets you excited? What is it that you really like doing? And some people like interacting with customers or the clients. Some people like figuring out things at their desk, doing that internal processing thing. Some people are the numbers people. And even though their job might be a little broad-based, knowing that that's where they like to focus, you might have adjustments and let them. But initiative, yes, it is hard, but a lot of initiative comes from motivation. And no, some people
I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I would like to also add, just from the nature of the question, it appears that maybe that staff member could have possibly exhibited, though that they were not qualified. It appears that I think the owner was just sort of desperate for his staff and was not patient with the interview process and looking at maybe an adequate number of candidates for that position.
Yeah, we could speculate and go,
right.
all these
There's
different
a lot
things.
of scenarios that could go.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's the organization and the individual. It's a two-way street. Has the organization put in place what it needs to have in place to support the individual? Now, if the individual still does not respond to that, then it might be time to think about either shifting their position internally or saying, maybe we're not a good fit.
Right.
And that's what I look at. It's just not a good fit if the initiative continuously or consistently, even after bringing it to their attention, is flatline. I call it, it's just flatline. So, okay, I mean, wow. We've touched on it. Are there any other burning questions you might want to ask? We got time for one more question, if possible. No?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
No?
But, okay. So, I want to thank two of my outstanding board members with being with me today. And so before we leave, just in case listeners want to contact you, let's give them the best method, besides just going through our website, to reach you. So, Rob, would you tell us how to reach you with your company?
Sure. My phone number is 702-381-3814, and my email address is rob, R-O-B, at 4ngo.com. That's the number 4ngo.com.
That's simple enough. Okay, Sharon, how can we reach you?
Yes, you can contact me at 702-285-4742, or my email is sharon@evanshelp.com.
All right. So, listeners, if you need any of their expertise, Rob works on websites and marketing, and Sharon is the Startup Human Expert Specialist. I love that. Please reach out to them, and thank you so much for joining me this morning. We're going to take another quick commercial break.
Support for the Philanthropreneur Foundation provided by WarriorDesign.net, providing services including graphic design, innovative flyers, responsive websites, video editing, and more. Offering next-day services at an affordable rate. For more information, visit us online at WarriorDesign.net. WarriorDesign.net.
Okay, so as we wrap up the show, the Philantrepreneur mission is building capacity through education and professional services. Take advantage of all of our resources, the Philantrepreneur Journal, this radio show, and, of course, all the resources on our website. Did you know, as a member, for only $9.97 per month, you can have free access to our training? Yes, members get all of our offered training modules free, whether it's web-based or live. Plus, you get a huge discount for our annual conference in October. So, reach out, go to our website. It's only $9.97 per month, and join the Philantrepreneur Foundation. You never know what other discounts and perks will come with that. Join us for our next show, where we will greet another great guest with tips and insights for your success. In the meantime, we ask, are you a philantrepreneur?
Thank you for tuning in to the Philantrepreneur Radio Show, hosted by Dr. Victoria Boyd. Get involved. Follow us on Facebook and other social media outlets. If you wish to share comments or suggestions or appear as a guest on our show, visit www.thephilantrepreneur.com. Contact Victoria Boyd. Email her at theboyd@thephilantrepreneur.com. The Philantrepreneur Radio Show is a production of and sponsored by the Philantrepreneur Foundation, a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.